His exact words to me was, "The big old boys are real. They're out there," and I'll never forget that.
Yeah, it's weird as hell. And so, wait, so it was
And,
you saw a stuffed one. Do you describe it just so I understand what you were looking at?
Yeah, so basically, to make a long story short, this guy had a trophy room. He was a big game hunter, and in his trophy room, I seen antelope, I seen wildebeest, I seen a camel, lion, and I seen a very tall, man-looking creature, and it was missing his hand. And they had the hand in a separate case, splayed out like this, on top of like the fireplace area. And
I realize this sounds crazy, and if you found this channel, you probably know that Kurt Metzger ends up deep in these topics, but I just have to say, this conversation made me 180 on my lack of interest in Bigfoot. I would have told you it was probably a species that did exist, or maybe it exists in small populations and it's good at hiding. But the way Big Homie CC describes this made me draw connections to this book I've been trying to read called The Coming Race by Lord Lytton. I'm maybe a third of the way through it, and it reads like fiction sometimes, but I have a feeling at least some of it is valuable information. Anyways, this guy, this lord, goes on an adventure with someone and they stumble into an underground civilization, and the people there have faces like the Sphinx in Egypt. They're more advanced and they use something called vril, which I think is the real important element of the book. But my point is that they had some sort of religious belief system that the outside world had barbaric cannibals or giants or something like that, monsters. So they willfully stayed inside the earth with bioluminescent plants and shit. Whatever. To keep this interruption from going on for too long, let's just continue. I think you'll get the point I'm making about other species existing but avoiding contact.
And, this is a guy who doesn't really talk much. And I was the youngest guy on the team. So when you're working with ex-military dudes, you're not ex-military, you're the youngest guy. They don't care how big and strong you are. You got to do the grunt work. So I'm carrying bags and, to earn my stripes, I would cook, I would grill, I would make sure I got Bud Light and stuff like that. And it led to getting invited into his game room, his big game trophy room. And that's what I saw. It gave me a weird feeling because I'm the only black motherfucker there.
Dude, I was blown away. I'm like, this is the first black man to describe Bigfoot that I've ever heard of in my life.
No doubt.
I've never heard of
it. And after I had that experience, I went out. I spend a few months every year in Clackamas County, Oregon. I go out in the field, and I got a lot of skills, a lot of training and stuff like that. So I put it to use, and I go out, and I've had some harrowing experiences. I never seen one physically outside in nature. What I saw was a taxidermy one, which
the fact that it was taxidermy is a very important distinction before I get too ahead of myself. Rich people have money and people will find a way to extract it, even if it's fake big feet. Bigfoot? I guess it's kind of like moose. Anyways, after hearing this stuff, they're going to talk about some actual laws in place that seem a little bit less like satire now.
I was told was very real. And I know about possibly 2 others in private collections. In Washington State, it is a law against hunting, shooting, and killing Bigfoot. Why would that exist? Is there an actual written
law? Wait. I didn't know that. There's an actual law that says it's not saying that they think Bigfoot's real, but if you see one, don't kill it.
Absolutely. That is real. That is a real thing.
That's fucking crazy.
Speaking of 75, in 1969, Skamania County in Washington made it illegal to kill a Sasquatch. So if this is going back to that age, you can go back to the 1800s where there were sightings and reports of wild men that were giant. They stole cattle, and the First Nations people said they'll take your women as well. So you got to keep these things in mind. They said they traded with them. They had conflicts with them. My concern is, why are they banned from interacting with humans now.
The way he started saying they would take our women made them sound like some Nephilim type shit, which is somewhat unsettling. And then when he's talking about them being banned from interacting with us, it makes me think about what I was saying earlier, like perhaps over generations their lore, their religion, or whatever was able to psyop their younger generations to avoid us at all costs. Maybe at the government's request? I don't know really, but let's keep going.
Well, I didn't know
It seems like there are several species.
Yeah.
It seems like there are several species that seem to be banned from interacting with human beings, and that's what's the biggest concern for me.
Wait, but you've said you've seen. By the way, Richard Doty gets real coy about the thing. By the way, I never cared about Bigfoot, but then there's all this weirdness around it that I'm like, what? Richard Doty was like, he goes, yeah, we're not allowed to talk about that. So God knows what the fuck that is. This is why I want to hear everybody's story, because patterns emerge. You start hearing, as soon as you hear like global warming shit in the fucking story, you know it's bullshit. So that I can go, okay, I know what that is. But then when I hear some wacky details I don't understand, those stick with me forever, you know, until I find something I can match up to it. And I can't match nothing up to that. That was creepy as hell, that story.
Very creepy story. And, you know, this is why I implore people to add a thermal camera to your repertoire, especially when it comes to your home surveillance. Because, you know, my experience with the thermal camera, several times in my house after going out on paranormal investigations, certain things would happen when I got home. And like my dog would be reacting to things that I couldn't see in my visual spectrum. So, I started adding thermal cameras to my research and had some pretty compelling experiences.
This is an interesting idea, and not a bad one if you think something's really going on and you want more information. It's weird as hell when an animal seems to be looking or reacting at something you don't see. Whether you want to go spiritual paranormal or a more scientific material route with UFO world lore and speculation, making yourself not visible to the human spectrum seems to be something that is possible, and a thermal camera has a chance to catch something depending on what set of advanced entities were involved, if any. This could just be crazy talk, but after over a decade and a half of hearing these kinds of stories that seem to match up with each other, I would say there might be something to it.
So I think everybody should, you know, they got a thermal camera that you can get on Amazon, one click right into your phone. I think everybody should have some experiences with that. And, you know,
dude, you know why?
Once everybody plays around with it,
so you got to establish. See, why are they right now? They're pushing Monroe Institute, fucking binaural astral projecting shit. They're pushing. All these things are being pushed hardcore. CE5 to go contact a fucking orb in the sky. It's all Ouija board shit. That's just a different version of it. Once you establish a conduit, then the shit can follow you, dude. You made it's like you just establish a little bit of entanglement with them. And a lot of these things, which I think are like just plasma, really, they need you to be like groomed with images so they have a form. So it's like either demons or aliens, right? And as long as you have those archetypes in your head, the higher dimensional being could project itself through your fucking brain patterns. So you'll lay a shape over it when really it's just plasma shit, right?
Yeah, because, you know, the true nature of our world, they tend to not reveal to us the spiritual, metaphysical aspect to it.
These are two fascinating points. There are other clips I have where Kurt talks more about how our minds and consciousness is not just receiving images or reality, it's projecting it. And that's a really cool topic that's above my head to explain properly. I'll have to see if I can make a video about it with the clips I have. But the other idea that the government and the powers that be don't reveal the spiritual nature of reality to us, I think is by design and for control. There are multiple stories from UFO lore where alien beings have said things along the lines of they feel sorry for us because if we knew what we were truly capable of, things would be much different. And I think we have evidence of that in monolithic structures from the past that are ancient and not reproducible at all, or at least to the same level of accuracy. Great knowledge has been lost, and I can't help but feel like it's being kept from us.
So if the key to everything is certain information that they've sequestered, and it has esoteric values to it, you know, I always look at what church or Christian denomination these people are affiliated to. So when I see, like you mentioned Catholic guys, so you mentioned Catholic guys, you know, the Catholic prayer is Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and to the hour of our death. Amen. But when you look at the Bible, there are no quotes from a woman in that book.
No, that's the Mother of Heaven. That's the Queen of Heaven shit. It's the Bledsoes talk about, it's Hathor. The Templars brought the divine feminine, the name divine feminine, back into it. No, that's not anything that was originally Christian. Yeah. That's correct. And so, but guess what? America is based on these fucking like witch cults that make a fake church around themselves. So the Mormons are a big one. Death cults. Yeah, no, they are death cults.
Yeah, the Mormons are the
perfect cover. Yeah, well, I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up. Okay, so I had. If you ever see such greats as Michael Jackson, Prince, but if you ever see Blair White, who's the most passing as trans you've ever seen online, her real name's Russell. She's on an earlier episode. Sure. Her family invented Jehovah's Witnesses. That's her family's thing. They're left-hand path Rosicrucians.
This was one of the first Derp with Kurt episodes, and I honestly didn't know she was trans when I saw it, so that's kind of wild. But when they get into the different sects of Christianity, like Catholicism, I didn't learn half of what I feel I should have going to Catholic school for 9 years. But when I was in high school, I was talking to a friend who was still really in it and believed in his denomination that had speaking in tongues stuff. And he brought up the Mary thing, and I didn't even really have to think that hard about it to be like, yo, that is weird. We focus on her too much when it says not to. Maybe not specifically her, but not to worship false idols or false gods or whatever. And it was pretty clear to me, so I stopped. Let's keep going.
And so all these
Rosicrucians.
Yeah, they're everywhere. A lot of them are chumps, dude. The bottom line is, what's your blood? So you the name of your order that you're in, it don't matter.
See Tucker Carlson after his investigations when he says, you know, I don't want to know anymore. What you mean you don't want to know anymore? So that's why people like yourself, like me, are important, because we able to read through the nonsense and we can put out information to the people and counteract the legacy mainstream media, who was definitely an enemy of humanity.
It didn't dawn on me, any of this shit, until the lockdowns, when I just had time to look at stuff I wouldn't have had time to look at. So, and none of it is, it's really upsetting because it ain't a secret. You could find out pretty much whatever you want to find out. You know, you're going to have to sift through a lot of bullshit. That's a fact, but stuff's not a secret. And they made it so people aren't going to. People are just going to not look. They're just they've been trained to not even look at it.
So when you see Tucker Carlson after his investigations, when he says, you know, I don't want to know anymore. What you mean you don't want to know anymore? He said when it comes to the UFO phenomenon, he said he's found out enough. He doesn't want to know anymore. So, you know, just like with my career path, combating trafficking, you know, a lot of companies don't want to deal with me because look how they handle the Epstein files.
Man, it sucks that people care if something's controversial. Advertisers and stuff, everyone knows their ads at this point and not related to the content unless otherwise specified and included in the content. Honestly, if these platforms just said buzz off, the advertisers would come right back because this is what works. Stop making the internet a more restricted place, please. It's the only place you can utilize your freedom and find what truth is out there. Anyways, I'm going to let the rest of this clip play out. If you feel generous and want to support me making this kind of content where I curate, compile, and clarify the truth I'm able to find, please subscribe and maybe share with a friend and check out the links in the description. Still got those documentaries on the back burner. Stay tapped in and I'll see you later.
You know, and they'll demonetize your content because we literally facing evil right now. So when you see people like Tucker Carlson say it's a really old story and they don't want to know anymore, you know, it boils down to literal good versus evil, man. And that's what we're dealing with right now.